I was having a conversation with an immigration lawyer colleague the other day. They were very off-put by the fact that I have devoted my entire career right now to challenging delays in immigration case processing, helping people who are waiting around for their visas to be processed, people whose green cards and citizenship are stuck. In today's video, I want to tell you a little more about how I got started fighting delayed immigration cases. If you don't know me, my name is Josh Goldstein. I'm the founder of Immigration Station. I've been practicing immigration law for nearly 20 years, and I've devoted my career to fighting immigration delays, to helping people get the visas that they deserve within a reasonable period of time, helping people get their green cards and their citizenship, and making sure that happens in a reasonable period of time, which is what everybody deserves. I believe that waiting around only leads to more waiting, and that when the pain of waiting gets too great, it's when you start to get ready to take action. How did I get involved with this? How did I get started? Let me tell you the story about my very first visa delay case. I had a client. I applied for a waiver. A waiver means we had to prove that my client would suffer extreme hardship if her husband wasn't allowed to have a visa. We submitted all this evidence to show that she relied on him financially and for emotional support. We also showed that she had a medical condition and she needed him to help her go to doctor's appointments and manage in daily life. Well, we provided all the information to USCIS. The case got approved. We confidently advised our client to go to the US consulate in San Salvador to get his visa. After we did that, the case just stuck. It got stuck. It wasn't processed. It was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and nothing was happening. So I started sending emails to the consulate. I started, what's going on? Why is this case not being processed? They never got back to me. I called the embassy. I filed a report with my local congressman and US senator. I tried to get some action from every single angle that I could. I did everything I could to get this case processed. Meanwhile, my client was separated from her husband. Her husband was stuck in El Salvador and she was in the US. She was crying. She would call me up. What's going on with my case? I didn't have any good answers and I felt terrible about that. And I went and I talked to every single immigration lawyer I knew and asked them, what could I do to get this case unstuck? Nobody could give me a good answer. Months went by. Month after month, the case was just stuck and it deserved to be approved. I just couldn't figure out why the consulate would not process this application. It was driving me crazy and I was so frustrated, and I was disappointed in myself because my client had trusted my advice. They traveled relying on the recommendation that I made, and they were stuck. And I didn't have any good answer for them. And I couldn't get any good answers from anyone else. So what I did was this. I just got so frustrated and so upset that I sued them. I went to court. I filed a lawsuit against the US consulate in San Salvador, and I said, this is ridiculous. This is unfair. This is not right. My client deserves an answer, deserves a decision on this case. Deny it, approve it, whatever, but make a decision, for God's sakes. I filed the lawsuit, and right after I filed the lawsuit, it was approved. My client got their visa, was on his way back to the US. When it happened, I was kind of stunned. I was kind of like in disbelief. I couldn't believe how effective the lawsuit was. A light bulb went off in my head, and I thought to myself, wow, if this case got approved with a lawsuit, I bet there are other people whose cases are stuck too. So I started thinking about this, and I started trying to figure out how I could help more people, and I started making videos about administrative processing, about visa delays. And since I've done that, we've filed countless lawsuits against all sorts of consulates all over the world. And now I understand that if you go to the consulate and the consulate says you have to apply for a waiver, and you apply for the waiver and the waiver gets approved, guess what? That's a pattern that this agency doesn't have any process to deal with. They'll just sit on it forever and ever and ever until you file a lawsuit. That's what we have discovered in our practice. The things that appeal to me about helping people whose immigration cases are delayed is that it's so profoundly unfair. You've done everything the system has asked you to do. You filed your application, you filled out the forms, you sent them a copy of your birth certificate, your passport, whatever they asked you to do. You went to the visa interview, or you waited patiently for an interview. You applied for naturalization. Whatever the case may be, you followed a legal process set out by Congress. You did what you're supposed to do. They owe you a decision within a reasonable period of time. It's not fair for them to make people wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. The other thing is that in the United States, one of the bedrock principles in the United States, part of our DNA, is the fundamental principle that everyone is equal under the law. Whether you support Donald Trump or you're the most left-wing person in America, no matter what your political views are, what your religion is, no matter where you come from, everybody in the United States agrees that everyone's equal under the law. That is fundamental. Well, when we look at visa delays, we don't see that everyone's equal under the law. What we see are politics. If you come from a country that is not friends with the United States, you have a great chance of having a visa that's delayed. If you're from Russia, Cuba, Iran, or any majority Muslim country, you run the risk that your visa will be delayed. And that's not fair, it's not legal. There are innocent people who are separated from their families just because of politics, and that's not right. Every day when I go to work, I wait to come home from work. And I race home from work because the great joy in my life is being a father and husband. And when I get home from work, I get to see my kids and I get to see my wife, and it's the joy of my life. And it eats me up inside when I think about people who are separated from their families and from their loved ones. People who are engaged to get married, who can't be together with their spouse, all because of bureaucratic inaction. It's not right, it's not fair, it's not legal. If I get to be with my family and my children, then why can't you get to be with your loved ones? I help people who've been delayed for weeks, for months, for years. And that time is something they'll never get back. They'll never get the opportunity to be with their family again during that time period. People wait and wait and wait for nothing. There's nothing going on. The cases are just stuck and not being processed. This is what drives me to be an advocate for you and for others whose cases are delayed. That's why I do what I do. That's what I'm all about. And if your case is delayed, I'd love to hear from you. Put it in the comments, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks.